Hi there, I'm Delaney. Right after my emergency appendectomy, while I was still groggy in a hospital bed, my parents boarded a flight to Hawaii with my sister. No calls, no visits, just a text. No calls. We're surfing. I had paid for the entire trip. And yet they left me behind like I didn't matter. That hurt. But what came next? It shattered everything I thought I knew about family. They used my money, lied about me online, sabotaged my job, and somehow I was still the villain. How do you recover when the people you trusted most turn out to be the ones who left you bleeding? Let me tell you what really happened. The room smelled like antiseptic and lemon-scented floor polish. I blinked against the blur of overhead lights, my eyelids gritty with sleep. The nurse's voice was gentle but clipped. You're out of surgery. Appendectomy went well. You'll be here a few days. I nodded faintly, though I felt like a slab of lead. My stomach throbbed under the gauze dressing, and every breath felt thick and heavy. I glanced to the table beside my bed, my phone charger and a small, clear plastic bag that held my wedding ring, lip balm, and earrings. It was strange how quickly life could twist. One day you're planning a family trip to Maui, your idea, your treat, your gesture of love, and the next, you're under anesthesia while the people you planned it for check into a beachside resort without you. My fingers hitched to reach for the phone. But even before I did, I heard the wheeled suitcases, the soft rumble of them approaching my room, their distinct rubbery drag over the tile. Then my mother's voice, breezy and bright, like she was arriving at a spa appointment. There's my girl. I turned my head slowly. Lorena swept in first, in a linen travel set and fresh lipstick. Vienna followed, with sunglasses perched in her hair, dragging the navy blue away suitcase I'd bought her last Christmas. And Dad, Clayton, trudged in last, already rubbing his neck like he'd rather be anywhere else. For a second, I was stupid enough to believe they'd come to cancel the trip and stay with me. You look pale, Delaney, Mom said, clucking her tongue. You need rest, but don't worry, we won't let your planning go to waste. I blinked. What? Clayton sighed, staring at the floor. We've been looking forward to this for months. I tried to sit up, pain searing through my side. You're still going? Vienna laughed softly. You'll be fine, it's just a few days. Del, you'll be up and texting us by tomorrow. No one asked how I felt. No one noticed the way I winced as I adjusted the bed controls. Lorena smiled, as if she'd solved everything. We'll FaceTime. The Wi-Fi at the hotel looks great. I didn't speak. There wasn't room for it. Not with the scent of her perfume lingering after she leaned in to kiss my forehead like she was doing me a favor. Not with Vienna already checking the airport schedule on her phone. Okay, let's go. TSA won't wait. She chirped. They left in under 4 minutes. No tears, no hesitation, no second look. That night, the ceiling fan clicked above me in uneven rhythm. I couldn't sleep, but I couldn't cry either. There was a hollow in my chest I hadn't felt since college. When I stood alone at my graduation because they were in Cabo for a last-minute work trip. I reached for my phone. Dozens of unread texts, a few work emails, then one message thread between Mom and Vienna, accidentally copied to me. Subject: Travel details from Lorena S. to Vienna SCC, Delaney S. Don't worry, D is just being dramatic. She always bounces back. Honestly, she's better at saving money than living life. Anyway, we deserve this, asterisk. I stared at the screen so long the text blurred. I blinked, hoping it was the morphine. But no, it was real, so that's what I was to them. The bank, the fallback plan, the practical one who didn't need much. Never mind that I covered Vienna's rent for 6 months when she lost her last job. Or that I took care of Mom when she had shingles. Juggling work and pharmacy runs like a part-time nurse. No one called to check if I was in pain. No one asked if I felt afraid. All I got was an email that wasn't meant for me. The next morning, my nurse came in to adjust the IV. She gave me a tight smile. Want help propping up your pillows? I nodded. She noticed my phone in my hand. Something wrong, sweetie? I almost said yes. That my family had just left me after surgery to go play in the sun. That I was the one who researched every tour, every dinner spot, every spa reservation. That I booked it to heal us. But instead, I just whispered, no, I'm okay. When she left, I turned my screen back on, tapped into the Hawaii folder I'd curated for weeks. My finger hovered over the first confirmation email: hotel, deluxe ocean view suite with private lanai. Let's see how they like vacationing without a room, asterisk. I muttered, and I clicked, cancel. I didn't even flinch when the screen flashed. Your reservation has been cancelled. It was easier than I thought it would be. One click and the ocean view suite was gone, along with the little handwritten welcome note I'd requested, the fruit basket with Vienna's favorite mangoes, and the bottle of rosé I had paid extra to have chilled and ready upon arrival. Rain tapped softly against the hospital window. Morning light filtered through gauzy curtains, washing everything in muted gray. The hospital room was quiet, except for the hum of machines and the occasional beep from my IV monitor. I adjusted the pillow behind me with one arm and scrolled to the next confirmation email. Couples massage. Cancelled. Volcano hike. Gone. Sunset dinner cruise. Not anymore. Each cancellation didn't just erase an activity. It erased a kindness that had never been reciprocated. A few days before my surgery, Vienna had messaged me, "Any chance we can upgrade to the deluxe suite? The standard feels tight." I remembered reading it while standing in line at the pharmacy, picking up Dad's cholesterol meds. I had rolled my eyes, but approved it anyway. I always did. I had told myself they deserved something nice after a stressful year. After all, I could afford it. Now, that message felt like acid on the inside of my mouth. I opened the booking site for the surf lesson I had arranged, tailored specifically for Vienna's content creation dreams. I even paid a little more so the instructor would film her from the shore. She'd wanted slow motion clips to post with a song about freedom and waves. Click. Cancelled. Next, the dinner at that impossible to book beachfront spot where the waitlist spanned 3 months. The one with locally sourced scallops and torchlit tables on the sand. Gone. I paused for a moment after that one. It had taken me weeks of calls and a connection through a former coworker to get that reservation. But I clicked anyway. The power wasn't in the revenge. It was in the return. Returning to myself. Returning my time, my money, my thoughtfulness to the one person who never demanded it, me. My phone vibrated. A text from Vienna landed. "This place better be as good as you said." I didn't reply. Instead, I swiped the message away and searched for the final item on my list, return flights. They had no clue I had full control of the booking. I'd paid for their round-trip tickets myself. It had seemed easier at the time, streamlined, efficient, generous. A part of me considered changing the return date instead of canceling altogether. Maybe shift it by a few days. Let them scramble. But no, that would still be doing too much. Instead, I tapped Manage Reservation, scrolled down, and hit Cancel Flight. Confirm. Then I did the same with the other two. Vienna's, Mom's, Dad's. Deleted. No backups. No reroutes. No gentle reminder email. Just digital dust where once there were barcodes and seat assignments. I dropped the phone gently on the tray table beside my bed and leaned back. A weight had lifted from my chest. And it wasn't the anesthesia. I had spent the last decade being the fixer, the planner, the emotional accountant in our family. When someone needed groceries, I filled their fridge. When rent was overdue, I wired the money. When Vienna couldn't find a job worthy of her degree, I paid for therapy. And still, I ended up here, cut open and left behind. There was no grand monologue, no dramatic exit, just a series of silent clicks and cold confirmations. The storm hadn't reached Hawaii yet, but it would. The rain tapped a steady rhythm against the window, soft and persistent, as if the sky itself was echoing the thoughts I couldn't say aloud. I stared at the ceiling, letting the steady beeps from the monitor lull me into something between waking and sleeping. Another day had passed, and still nothing. No texts, no missed calls, not even a lazy thumbs-up emoji from Vienna. They were across an ocean, sipping mimosas, wrapped in hotel robes, floating through my carefully planned schedule like I'd never existed. Like I wasn't lying in this room, stitched up and alone, with bruises blooming along my side and an ache that medicine couldn't dull. The door creaked open. Nurse Emma walked in quietly, carrying a fresh IV bag. Her presence was always soft, never rushed. I liked that about her. She glanced at the empty visitor chair and offered a small smile. "You're the only one on this floor who hasn't had a visitor yet. Are they out of town?" I paused before answering. "Yeah, Hawaii." She blinked. "Seriously?" "Yep," I said, biting back a bitter laugh. "Family vacation. Booked by me. Paid by me. They left the day after my surgery." Emma didn't respond right away. She simply adjusted the IV drip and shook her head gently, as if unsure whether to be surprised or just sorry for me. When she finally spoke, it was quiet. "Some people don't know what they have until it's gone." I didn't reply. I couldn't. After she left, I grabbed my phone again. I scrolled through old messages, past birthdays I remembered, Holidays I hosted. Grocery deliveries I paid for when Vienna said, "Rent drained me this month." Sis, you know how it is. I remembered how I'd pulled double shifts when mom had pneumonia and needed help at home. I'd moved in with her for a week, cooking bland soup and tracking her meds while Vienna sent me filtered selfies from a yacht cruise that same week. She was on a damn cruise. And when Vienna's latest breakup had her spiraling into sobbing phone calls and blackouts on my couch, I was the one who booked her therapy. I drove her every Tuesday and waited in the parking lot. She never stayed in therapy long. But I did. I stayed for her. Why? Because she was family. And because I believed that showing up meant something. That love, when it was quiet and steady, would matter more than the flashy, Instagrammable kind. I was wrong. The screen flashed. A call from Mira, my cousin from Portland. I answered quickly, my voice hoarse from too much silence. "Hey, Lainey," Mira said, "you okay?" I could hear wind on her end. She was walking somewhere, maybe coming home from work. I swallowed. Define okay. I saw Vienna's story. Myra's tone changed instantly. She posted a boomerang from a Maui spa, captioned it, "Can't believe you're not here. Spa day in paradise. Baby." I thought maybe it was an old video. "Nope," I said. "It's very current." Mira hissed. "That's low. Even for her." She didn't even ask how the surgery went. I said, staring at the drip. "Not once." There was a pause. Then Mira spoke again. Slower this time. "Delaney, there's something I think you should know. A while back, maybe 6 months ago, I overheard Vienna and your mom talking at Aunt Julie's party. They mentioned someone from your job. A guy in HR. I sat up straighter. "David?" "Yeah, David." They were laughing about how they nudged him not to give you that team lead promotion. Something about you being too emotionally tired and needing less stress. The world tilted. I gripped the blanket tighter, trying to ground myself. "They what?" "They said they were looking out for you. But I overheard Vienna say she was going to pitch herself for a consulting contract with your team. They wanted to make space for her." I couldn't speak. I needed that promotion. It was how I'd planned to move out. To finally stop splitting rent with Vienna. To have a space that was mine. Not one I paid most of, but never fully owned. And they torched it. I stared out the window at the overcast Seattle skyline. The hospital room was too quiet now. Too still for how loud everything felt inside me. They hadn't just left me behind in Hawaii. They had built a staircase out of my sacrifices and stepped on my shoulders to climb higher. No more. I opened Facebook and started a new post. Not rage-filled, not explosive, just true. I uploaded a photo of my hospital bracelet. The date clearly visible. A screenshot of my call log. 0 missed calls the day of surgery. Another image. Vienna's spa day in paradise post. Time stamped hours after I came out of anesthesia. I added a message. Asterisk, since stories are being shared. Here's mine. I booked the trip. I paid for it. I had emergency surgery the night before our departure. My family left anyway. I wasn't unstable. I was recovering. And this is me finally choosing truth over silence. Asterisk. I pressed post. The screen blinked for a second. Then settled. I placed the phone face down beside me and leaned back against the pillows. The room was still quiet, until it wasn't. The first vibration buzzed against the tray table. Then another. Then 5 more in quick succession. A flood of new notifications, comments, direct messages, shared posts. But it wasn't the strangers that made my stomach flip. It was the name that lit up my screen next, Clayton. Dad. .. The sunlight creeping through the blinds was filtered by a curtain of coastal gray. Classic Seattle in early July. I stirred awake, heart still a little too fast from the firestorm of my Facebook post. The comments had exploded overnight. Strangers, coworkers, even a few family members chimed in with their own stories, some validating, some accusatory, and all of them loud. I was halfway through a bitter sip of hospital coffee when Nurse Emma stepped in. Hesitating at the door, her eyes flicked from the tray table to me. "You have visitors," she said carefully, "and they're not calm." Before I could speak, the door slammed open behind her. Lorena led the charge, face flushed, jaw set. She was still in a linen blouse from the tropics, as if clinging to the fantasy she'd flown back from. Vienna followed close behind, dragging the designer suitcase I'd given her for Christmas. The tag from the Maui spa still attached to its handle. Clayton trailed last, not speaking, just scanning the room like he hoped it would disappear. "I hope you're proud of yourself." Lorena spat, not even waiting for the nurse to step aside. "You humiliated your entire family on the internet, asterisk." I said nothing, staring at them from the safety of clean white sheets and beeping monitors. You had no right to post something like that, she continued. People are talking. Delaney, your aunt called me crying this morning. Your cousin uninvited us from the baby shower. And for what? A tantrum? Vienna tossed her hair inside, dropping the suitcase with a dramatic thud. You're in a hospital, not a throne room, acting like the queen of petty. My fingers tightened around the coffee cup. I placed it down slowly, letting the silence stretch a beat longer than comfort allowed. I almost died, asterisk. I said flatly, while you were wine tasting in paradise, asterisk. Lorena rolled her eyes. Here we go. I didn't ask for a crown. I added, just a little decency, maybe a phone call, but you couldn't even spare that. Clayton shifted beside the wall, his hands in his pockets, head slightly bowed. I waited for him to speak. He didn't. My phone buzzed just then. Another alert from my credit card app. I picked it up without looking at them and opened the notification. $580 charged at Lokahi Spa and Wellness, Lahaina, Hawaii. Yesterday. I blinked once. Then again. Did you? I looked up at Vienna. Did you use my card? Asterisk. She didn't even flinch. We didn't bring a backup and we needed massages. I figured you owed me that much after what you pulled. I stared at her, stunned by the sheer audacity. You charged my card yesterday? After blasting me online? After abandoning me? It was just a charge. Vienna shrugged. Stop being so dramatic. That word, dramatic. It had followed me my entire life like a bad scent. I reached for the nurse call button and pressed it. Nurse Emma re-entered in seconds. Yes? Can you call security, please? I need 4 visitors escorted out of room 204. The silence cracked like ice. Lorena's voice rose. Excuse me? You're excused, I said, calmer than I thought I'd be. But not welcome, asterisk. Emma didn't hesitate. She stepped out and returned moments later with Dr. Merrick and 2 uniformed hospital guards. This is a healing environment, Dr. Merrick said, tone neutral but firm. We cannot allow disruptions, no matter the relationship. Vienna snapped. She's our sister. That's not how you've treated me, asterisk. I replied. Lorena raised her voice again. But it cracked under its own weight. We flew across the country for you. No, I corrected. You flew across the country because you were caught, asterisk. Clayton met my eyes for the briefest second. His lips parted like he might say something, an apology. Maybe, but then he dropped his gaze and followed the guards out with the rest. I didn't cry, not when Lorena yelled down the hallway. Not when Vienna kicked the trash bin over on her way out. Not even when I saw my dad disappear behind the closing elevator doors without a word. Instead, I fell back against the pillows, my chest aching with something unfamiliar, relief. For once, I hadn't let guilt drag me back into silence. My phone buzzed again. I reached for it and opened my banking app. Under recurring payments, I saw them listed like anchors I hadn't realized were still weighing me down. Vienna's rent, Mom's grocery fund, Dad's phone bill, weekly therapy co-pay for VSI tapped, manage. Then, cancel, one by one. The room had finally settled into an evening hush. The kind that only follows chaos. Shadows stretched across the floor like silent witnesses. I was still propped up in bed, hand resting on my phone screen, open to the Manage Recurring Payments menu. Each line item stared back at me like tiny leashes I hadn't realized were still wrapped around my ankles. I started with the easiest one, Vienna's therapy payments. Tap, disable. Then, utilities for the house I hadn't lived in for years but still quietly funded. Tap, disable. Weekly grocery fund, the one Lorena insisted helped keep the family healthy. Tap, gone. With each cancellation, my chest rose higher. It didn't feel like anger. It felt like oxygen, like something I hadn't breathed since my early 20s. Next stop was the authorized users list on my credit card. Sure enough, Vienna and Mom were both there, riding the same credit I bled myself thin to build. Tap, remove. My fingers moved without hesitation. Now I opened the shared rideshare app. Vienna's phone was still linked to my account, the only way she'd ever gotten to those early morning therapy sessions I scheduled for her. I unlinked it, deleted the shared grocery list app, canceled the streaming subscription I hadn't watched in a year. Then silence. It didn't last. My phone buzzed violently, lighting up like it was having a seizure. 11 texts in rapid succession from Vienna. Are you insane? That was my suitcase. Grow up, Delaney. This is pathetic. You owe me after the week you just put us through. You think you're so above it all. But you're not. You're acting like Dad wasn't right to stay quiet. Delete that hospital post now. You've ruined our family. Fix this. You'll regret this. I swear. You're not the victim you think you are. I stared at the final message longer than the rest. Not because it hurt, but because of how small it suddenly felt. Seconds later, a voicemail from Lorena slid in. I didn't even need to press play. I could hear her cadence in the preview transcript. "You've shamed us in front of everyone. I raised you better than this. You took a private family issue and made it a circus. Your sister needed this vacation. We all did. We were trying to enjoy what you planned. Right, because when I was sedated, stitched up, and alone, it was apparently the perfect time for them to go snorkeling in Maui and charge massages to my card." Still gripping the phone, I opened my contacts. Dad's name sat at the top, bookmarked from a time I thought he might call first. Block. Lorena was next, the woman who taught me to say thank you for things I paid for. Block. Vienna's name glared back at me like neon. I didn't hesitate. Block. Clayton. I paused. He hadn't screamed. He hadn't lied. But he also hadn't stood up. His silence had been as sharp as their words. I counted silently. 1, 2, 3. Then pressed it. Block contact. The screen went dark. And I let it. I let the weight of those actions hang in the air like the last few notes of a funeral hymn. Except I wasn't mourning. I was closing the door to a chapter that had drained me more than any surgery ever could. Asterisk. A buzz, softer this time, lit up the screen. "Mira." I opened the message. "I saw what you posted. Just wanted to check in. You okay?" I didn't overthink my reply. For the first time in years, yes. Another moment passed, and then I typed one last thing. This time into my notes app where everything began. I was never their backup plan. I was their lifeline, and they cut it, so I'm cutting mine. Asterisk. Outside the hospital window, the clouds had started to part. A faint glow of fading daylight caught the edge of the blinds. The kind of light that signals something new. Not necessarily brighter, but definitely clearer. I set the phone face down on the side table. No more buzzing. No more guilt-laced voicemails. No more, just one more favor, messages. For once, I wasn't waiting for anyone to change. I had changed. I closed my eyes, and for the first time, the silence didn't feel empty. It felt earned. For the first time in weeks, I woke up to something other than hospital monitors or the buzz of incoming messages. Morning sunlight filtered through the curtains of my apartment, casting a soft glow across the hardwood floor. The sheets were freshly laundered, smelling faintly of lavender. I lay there for a long moment, listening. No beeping, no voices raised in guilt, no chaos, just peace. The quiet wasn't eerie, it was earned. I sat up slowly, still cautious of my healing incision, and padded into the kitchen. The fridge was full. Greek yogurt, orange juice, sliced turkey, the kind of food I used to forget to buy for myself while I was busy making sure Vienna had her dairy-free ice cream and Mom had her imported mineral water. On the counter, a bouquet of sunflowers greeted me in a mason jar, with a note scribbled in Bree's familiar handwriting, "You're loved. Welcome home." My chest tightened, not with grief, but with something resembling gratitude. Later that morning, Bree showed up with a large coffee and a bag of warm muffins. She didn't knock, just let herself in like always. "This place smells better than your last recovery," she teased, setting everything down with exaggerated care. "Tyler came by yesterday and hooked up those new smart lights you mentioned. Voice activated. You can even change the color. We voted for Zen Green." A knock followed just seconds later. Sophie, all denim jacket and energy, held up a tablet. "Daily check-in. You're our Thursday. Myris got Wednesdays. Bree rotates. You made a schedule?" I blinked. She smiled. "You think we were gonna let you sit here and spiral alone?" Not happening. Something cracked open in me then. I used to think blood made family. But now I knew better. That afternoon, while Sophie chatted in the living room and Bree watered the plants I didn't remember owning, a letter arrived from my company's insurance department. Thick envelope. No warning. I opened it slowly. Inside, a formal letter confirming my coverage, citing my injury as work-related, and attached, a payout check. I stared at the numbers. More than I expected. More than I dared hope for. They'd always told me I wasn't enough. Turns out, I'd underestimated my worth too. That evening, after everyone left and the apartment settled into stillness, I powered on my laptop. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Then typed, "Luxury hotels in Maui." The same beachfront suite appeared, identical to the one I had once booked for all of us. Except this time, I selected one adult. Solo traveler. No guilt, no compromise, no one to double-check with or make allowances for. Just me. Next came the experiences. I clicked through the tour options. Ones I had once curated around everyone else's preferences. But now, cheese tasting? Absolutely. Sunset cruise? Booked. Guided volcano hike? Yes, please. Every booking felt like a layer peeling off, revealing something truer underneath, something I hadn't realized was still alive inside me. I didn't need permission anymore. I didn't need to carry everyone else's expectations just to earn space for my own joy. Later that night, I stood on my tiny balcony. The Seattle air crisp and biting. I wrapped the cardigan around my shoulders and looked up at the stars, imagining Maui's night sky and how it might feel to exist under it. Unburdened, a memory surfaced, uninvited but sharp. Me, kneeling beside mom's bed while she battled pneumonia. Vienna off on a cruise, posting bikini shots with hashtags like hashtag self-care queen and hashtag finally free. Back then, I'd said nothing, just swallowed it. I believed if I kept showing up, they'd eventually see me. But that girl? She didn't live here anymore. The ping of my inbox pulled me back. It was the flight confirmation. Departure. 3 weeks from now. Destination. Freedom. A second later, my phone buzzed. I didn't even need to check the sender. Vienna's tone practically pulsed through the screen. I heard you're going to Maui. Wanna talk before you go? Link to next chapter. I didn't respond. Not then. Not even out of curiosity. I had one final thing to do before I left. And it didn't involve her. I opened the sliding door and stepped out, barefoot onto the warm stone of the lanai. The ocean stretched endlessly ahead, curling in rhythmic waves like breath. The morning air held no urgency, just sunlight and salt. This was the version of Maui I'd imagined back when I was still planning the trip for them. But this was better, because now the view was mine. I wrapped the soft robe tighter around my waist and took the first sip of hotel coffee. Not gourmet, not bad either, just simple, honest, and for the first time, not shared out of obligation. Later that morning, I strolled the beach barefoot. The water lapped at my toes while I let go of timelines, expectations, and the heaviness of fixing what others broke. A local woman at a cafe invited me to sit. We talked about nothing and everything. She'd lost her daughter 5 years ago and had since opened a bookstore. I used to think I had to keep everyone happy to be loved, she said, stirring her tea. I nodded slowly. I used to think that too. After lunch, I joined a guided cheese tasting tour, then wandered through a tropical botanical garden. There were couples everywhere, newlyweds, retirees, families, but I didn't feel out of place. I felt unburdened. I didn't expect healing to feel so unceremonious, so soft, like a familiar sweater rediscovered in the back of your closet, worn and warm without apology. Then one morning, while I was tying my sandals for a sunrise hike, my phone buzzed. A voicemail. Lorena's voice was brittle with attempted warmth. We miss you. You didn't have to cut us off. Vienna's been struggling. We all are. Just think about coming back. She sounded like a woman rewriting a story mid-chapter. I listened once, then deleted it, not out of cruelty, but out of peace. There was nothing left to say. Not anymore. That evening, as the sky faded into lavender and peach, I sat by the fire pit beside the infinity pool. I pulled out a notebook and wrote a letter. Not to send, just to release. I'm not angry anymore, but I'm not pretending either. I'm not your backup plan. I was your lifeline, and you never once asked if I needed one. I won't come back for more of the same, asterisk. I tore the page out, folded it in half, and let it fall into the flames. The paper curled in seconds. Ash danced into the night air. I stayed seated long after the fire died down. The next day, I opened my laptop and searched volunteer programs in Maui. A listing caught my eye: financial literacy workshops for women rebuilding their lives. I signed up to help. Then I booked a week-long coaching retreat nearby. This trip wasn't just about leaving. It was about beginning. That afternoon, I sat out on the balcony with a mango smoothie and flipped through my photo gallery, scrolling past the years of group shots, forced smiles, vacation photos that now felt more like receipts than memories. Then I found the last photo of me with Vienna and our parents. Thanksgiving 3 years ago. I paused for a beat, then deleted it. In its place, I snapped a new one. Me, with loose hair, no makeup, feet propped on the railing, a smile that felt real. I posted it with the caption, asterisk, healing looks good on me, asterisk. Then I put the phone away. The sun dipped lower on the horizon, casting gold over the ocean. Somewhere behind me, a voicemail might land, a message might ping, but none of it could reach me now. Because I wasn't running anymore. I was finally home, with myself, asterisk.